Hi there, students. To interpret, an interpretation, even an interpreter. So to interpret, to explain the meaning of something to somebody, to present something in a way that it's comprehensible. So my psychologist interpreted my dream. I interpreted the data. I looked at the data and put the data in a form where it could be explained to people. An interpreter translates from one language to another, normally at the same time. So the interpreter, one person is speaking one language and they translate that into a different language to interpret. It's very hard work being an interpreter. To interpret something, to interpret a role. So an actor interprets a role. Sir John Gielgud interpreting Macbeth. So playing a role, an actor interprets a role, plays a role, portrays a role. To interpret, to act as an interpreter between speakers of different languages. So, to interpret, if you interpret something, you decide that this is its meaning, this is its significance. I interpret what he said to be a warning to be careful. I interpreted the coded message. A judge has to interpret the law. So the politicians decide that something is going to be a law and they make it a law, and then the judge needs to interpret those words, interpret what is meant by them. When reading poetry, it can be very difficult to interpret exactly what the poet means by something. So to explain, to define, to clarify. If you interpret what someone is saying, you translate it into another language. I spoke no Chinese and my wife arrived to interpret for me. So to translate, to convert from one language to another. So to clarify the meaning of something. I interpreted the smile as an invitation to sit down. An actor interprets a role. So to decide what the intended meaning of something is. Interpretation of statistics is a very fine art, because you take the statistics, you take the numbers, and then you interpret them in the way you want in order to get them to say what you want them to say, and then they can say anything you like. You should not interpret his silence as a sign of his being guilty. If you change your mind, this will be interpreted as a sign of weakness. The book can be interpreted as a cry for help. I interpreted her comments as a criticism. The reaction of the public can be interpreted in many ways. So to interpret, to express your own ideas about the intended meaning of something, of a play or a piece of music when it is performed. So to for people to understand Shakespeare, you need to interpret it into a more modern style, because the old language is very dense and very difficult to understand. The guide interpreted for me, and like that I could get my message across. To describe the meaning of something, to examine something so that you can explain it. So I'm going to interpret the data. A fortune teller looks at the lines in your hand and then interprets what they mean. Okay, so to interpret, to explain the meaning of something, to understand the significance, to construe. I interpreted his nodding head to be agreement. An actor interpreted a character, to interpret from one language to another. So, to interpret. Formality. I think I'm going to give it a 6 in formality. It's a little bit on the formal side, but I think you could use it. You can use it absolutely anywhere. And then, as to origin, it comes to English through French from Latin. Interpretor, to explain, to expound. Okay, so inter, between, and press, perhaps a price. So it's an intermediate, something between two different things. Anyway, enough. If you enjoyed the video, give it a rating, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Interpret, interpreter, interpretation.